President Clinton is back in Washington and going to work on his pledge to reform the welfare system. And Americans head home from Thanksgiving as a storm drenches much of the Northeast. This is the CBS Evening News. And I'm Deborah Norville reporting. Good evening. President Clinton has ended his holiday weekend at Camp David and is turning his attention to his pledge to rework America's welfare system. Bob Orr reports the administration is considering cash rewards to private companies that hire welfare recipients.
President Clinton ended his Thanksgiving break returning to the White House and a busy agenda that's now being crowded by yet one more major initiative, welfare reform. As cabinet members fanned out at Washington hospitals selling health care, Health and Human Services Secretary Donna Shalala confirmed that the White House is putting together a sweeping new welfare proposal.
We're talking about work, we're talking about responsibility, and we're talking about some time limitations on the whole process.
An advisory group appointed by the president is reviewing options which include paying companies federal subsidies to hire or find jobs for welfare recipients, or having the government contract with employment firms, paying them a fee for each welfare worker placed.
I think it's a good idea because I think there are a lot of willing workers out there, and as long as it's profitable to employers, it could work.
Since the campaign, the president has been promising to fix a broken system by limiting benefits and requiring welfare recipients to find work after 2 years.
We ought to give people a real chance. Invest in people who are on welfare. Invest in their education and training and support for their children, and then require them to go to work. And if there are no jobs, create those jobs.
But many big companies are cutting back, not expanding. Welfare rolls have ballooned by 25% in the past 3 years. Beyond that, subsidy programs have a bad track record when it comes to providing lasting jobs.
What we've seen in the past is that employers are very good at playing this game. They hire people for as long as the subsidy is there, and then when the subsidy's gone, the job's gone.
But the Clinton administration says it's drawing on past mistakes to craft a multi-pronged strategy that will not only wean people from support roles, but will provide some long-term hope.
The most important thing to me, I feel, is we've got to educate people such that they can get off welfare. You can't get a job if you have no skills.
Health Secretary Shalala says the group studying welfare still has to sort through many possible options. President Clinton hasn't seen any of their recommendations yet, but a comprehensive reform plan could be on his desk by the end of the year. Bob Orr, CBS News, the White House.
In the Middle East, Israeli soldiers in the Gaza reportedly shot and killed a member of Yasser Arafat's faction of the PLO. Earlier, there were demonstrations after the curfew was lifted at a Gaza refugee camp. Palestinians threw stones at troops and burned tires in protest. Arafat today said the peace accord's future hinges on Israel starting to leave the Gaza and Jericho on December 13th as agreed. But Israel's Prime Minister Rabin has raised the possibility of a 2-week delay. Meantime, the United States is trying to give the peace process a push. CBS News White House correspondent Bill Plant is here with more on that. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Deborah. The Secretary of State, Warren Christopher, takes off tomorrow on a 2-week trip to Europe and the Middle East, which will certainly put the administration's foreign policy to the test. The problems on Christopher's agenda range from Bosnia to world trade to the shaky Mideast peace process. In just over 2 weeks, Israel is scheduled to begin withdrawing its troops from Gaza and Jericho. But recent violence has the Israelis talking about delaying the December 13th deadline.
For the Israeli public, the more they see terrorism, the less they are likely to support the grand concession that Yitzhak Rabin has given to the PLO.
Palestinian leaders warn of further bloodshed if the withdrawal doesn't begin on schedule. But while both sides do have serious concerns, this kind of brinkmanship isn't unusual in the Middle East.
There's a bit of posturing going on, and whether it's December 13th or a couple of days after, it's going to be implemented.
Before the violence erupted, the Secretary of State's first priority on this trip was jump-starting talks between Israel and Syria.
We are ready. We'll continue negotiations with the Syrians. But the Syrians have to prove that they support another Arab partner decision to reach an agreement with Israel.
Syria wants Israel to acknowledge Syrian sovereignty over the strategic Golan Heights, which Israel captured in the 1967 war, and to withdraw its troops. That's just for openers.
The problem with the Israel-Syria talks is that Assad wants what Sadat got, all the land, without giving what Sadat gave, all the peace. And with the Israelis, it's just the reverse.
And both sides are expecting the U.S. Secretary of State to arrive with new ideas to get them talking. At stake for the U.S., credibility for the administration's foreign policy. Deborah?
Bill, thank you. Also this evening, there's been a startling development in the long conflict in Northern Ireland. Prime Minister John Major admits that Britain has held secret contacts with the IRA. His spokesman says it would have been irresponsible for Major to do otherwise. Mark Phillips has details on this.
Through the recent wave of bombings and shootings in Northern Ireland, the British government had repeatedly maintained that it had not been talking to the IRA. Prime Minister John Major even telling Parliament the government would have no dealings with the IRA so long as it continued its violence.
The honourable gentleman's remarks are that we should sit down and talk with Mr Adams and the Provisional IRA. I can only say to the honourable gentleman that would turn my stomach over and that of most people in this House, and we will not do it.
But they did. Today's London newspaper, The Observer, reported that John Major's government had in fact been in contact with the IRA for months, and the government was forced to concede that it had been, as the phrase goes here, economical with the truth. Gerry Adams, the leader of the IRA's political wing Sinn Féin, confirmed the contacts. Because of British law, which forbids the broadcast of statements from the IRA and its supporters, an actor speaks Adams' words.
That it was also authorised by John Major with the knowledge of other cabinet ministers and involved a number of senior civil servants.
The government claims that it was merely responding to an IRA overture offering to end its violent campaign, and that it had to keep the contacts secret.
You have to answer to people as to why you brushed aside and took no action upon a message of that kind.
25 years and 3,000 deaths into the so-called troubles in Northern Ireland, another possible peace initiative may be stillborn, swamped in a sea of recriminations about government lying and double-dealing. Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
Today is traditionally one of the busiest travel days of the year, and in parts of the Midwest and along the East Coast, foul weather had some holiday travelers wondering if that trip for Turkey was really worth it. Linda Tyra has more on the battle to get back home.
Heavy rains and high winds pounded the east, forcing this barge carrying 100,000 gallons of fuel oil to run aground off New York's Long Island, and threatening to make this Sunday after Thanksgiving a real turkey of a day in which to travel home. More than 8 inches of snow blanketed the Milwaukee area. Officials this morning had to close the city's international airport for several hours.
If there was ever a time we didn't want to have a surprise like this, it's this weekend.
But at many airports like Chicago's mega-sized O'Hare, flights were generally on time, with more agents put on duty for the anticipated rush of passengers.
The terminal is great and everything's been smooth.
If there were delays, seasoned passengers took it in stride.
I'll be getting home eventually. We were supposed to be here an hour and a half ago, but that's all right. We got here safely, happily. It was neat.
On the rails, trains ran as smooth as gravy. Waiting areas were crowded, but Amtrak said it had added extra trains.
We've noticed no real backups or problems today. The passengers have been coming through and moving through the ticket lines and coming down to train side and getting aboard the trains with a minimum of difficulty.
On the roads, minor flooding slowed traffic in many cities, and swollen streams and rivers hampered travel in central Pennsylvania. But all in all, the day turned into more of a blessing than a curse, a reward for those who had to go somewhere during this busiest travel week of the year. Linda Tyra, CBS News, New York.
And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the Attorney General of California on his call for a moratorium on the sale of violent video games. And remembering television pioneer Gary Moore, who died today at the age of 78.
Much love to each of you from all of us. And before we go any further, may I say that we all hope that all of you in the years to come will be able to look back.
So you switched from whole milk to skim milk, huh? And you're eating granola?
Oh, don't tell me.
Yep, good old granola is loaded with fat. But today, there's Kellogg's low-fat granola. Look, all the sweet, chewy, big, hearty taste today's granola fans crave, and just half the fat. Kellogg's low-fat granola. It won't weigh you down, slow you down, or let you down on taste. And now, Kellogg's low-fat granola comes without raisins, too.
Yeah!
Great taste, half the fat,
and no raisins.
Charlie and I were making real good time till we got cut off. We were just stuck there. Well, times like that, I'm glad I got Great Western direct deposit. Nothing can hold up my paycheck. It goes into my account automatically. And I can call the bank to confirm it anytime I want. Check it out. You never know when you're going to get caught in traffic. Talk to Great Western Bank about direct deposit, or ask your employer.
Paying for quality can be a difficult decision at first. But over time, it gets a lot easier to live with. Acura. Some things are worth the price.
A new study says murder ranks third among the causes of death at the workplace, and in 5 states and Washington, D.C., it is the leading cause. The National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health says 7,600 people were killed at work during the last decade. And with the healthcare reform debate getting underway, another new report has some distressing news. Many sick people aren't getting better simply because they're not taking their medicine. CBS News health correspondent Dr. Bob Arnott has a report.
A surprising number of people, nearly half of all adults, do not take their prescription medicine the way they're told. And that, according to a new study, is costing the economy $100 billion a year in extra medical treatment and lost productivity in the workplace.
It is frustrating when patients don't take the medicines properly, particularly when you know that if they took the medicine properly, you could prevent the problem. Can you lift the arms up in the air for me?
That's exactly what happened to Saul Pervin. Like millions of Americans, he has high blood pressure, which is easily treated with prescription drugs. But Pervin stopped taking his medicine and suffered a stroke. He is now partially paralyzed, and his speech is impaired.
I never thought it was such of great importance at the time that I take this medication. I ended up here. That's one of the consequences.
The study says people with even the most serious illnesses often don't take their medicine. A startling 90% of patients with heart failure don't fill their prescriptions. 40% of epilepsy patients don't take their anti-seizure drugs. And 20% of transplant patients don't take the medicine to prevent organ rejection.
We make the best medicines that cure people and comfort people, but we need to teach people how to take them properly.
The big question is, why aren't people following their doctor's advice? The study says that many people don't fill their prescriptions because of the high cost, and others simply don't believe their medicines will help them. Dr. Bob Arnott, CBS News, New York.
Suicide doctor Jack Kevorkian reportedly has long been fascinated with medical research on those condemned to die. Newsweek magazine quotes an article written by Kevorkian in 1957 in which he called for research on death row inmates.
Salad Shooter helps you every day.
How about some cheese for your pizza or perfect Salad Shooter hash browns for breakfast, vegetables sliced or shredded, and nothing tops a salad like Salad Shooter.
Point and shoot to help you every day.
Presto Salad Shooter electric slicer shredder. So you can fill an omelet, slice a beet, make a soup, top a treat. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, stores anywhere.
Salad Shooter helps you every day.
Original and professional Salad Shooter.
This cereal and milk is high in calcium, but take away the milk, and it's still high in calcium because it's whole grain Total. Of all these cereals, only Total is an excellent source of calcium even before you add milk. Calcium-rich whole grain Total. You can get more calcium from one bowl of whole grain Total than you can get from all the corn flakes in this 12-ounce box, or in 5 boxes, or in 10 boxes. Total, the only leading cereal that's an excellent source of calcium, or in 20 boxes.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with Chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls, turtles, bunnies, and a Chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
Chia Pets and Trees are available at Payless, Thrifty, Walgreens, and Kmart. Makes a great gift.
Members of the family of fugitive Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar have been denied permission to enter Germany. They remain tonight at Frankfurt Airport. There's widespread speculation that the family's departure from Colombia is a sign that Escobar is about to surrender. Now that the holiday shopping season is on, parents are being urged to look twice before they buy certain video games. Mortal Kombat, where opponents are beheaded, and Night Trap, in which women are stalked and murdered, are among the video games cited by California's Attorney General. He's asked manufacturers and retailers to stop selling all video games depicting graphic violence. And with us from San Francisco this evening is Dan Lundgren, California State Attorney General. Good evening. Nice to have you with us. It's been a week since you sent out these letters to manufacturers and certain retailers around the country. What's been the response you've gotten?
Well, I've heard from some of the manufacturers already. A number of them have indicated that they share my concern about the violence that's presented to children these days in many different aspects. They disagree with my suggestion that we ought to remove these from the children or remove these from the shelves. Rather, they believe that we ought to have a rating system, or in one case, Nintendo actually has adopted a standard, and they claim that they would not present things that are in fact violent to children. So there has been some thoughtful response. I'm going to wait till I get all the responses and then have a response of my own.
The videos are really pretty intense. One of them, Mortal Kombat, has this situation, I think it's Night Trap actually, where the object of the game is to save the woman from being stalked, murdered, and hung up on meat hooks. What's the justification for any kind of video like that?
Well, they would suggest that it's nothing more than the kinds of vampire movies we used to see in the 60s. And actually, when I looked at Night Trap, they actually have a man hanging up rather than a woman. They made a point of that in the letter to me. I'm not sure that makes a real difference. My real problem with this is interactive video. Young people, we're talking about 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, are actively engaged in these games where, based on what they do, violence can result. And it seems to me we're already an extremely violent society.
But can you make the correlation between the video and the increase in juvenile crime?
Well, what I say is this. There's an accumulation of many different things that are hitting our kids today, and I think the accumulation makes it more likely they would commit crime than otherwise. These kids don't come out of the womb committing crimes like that, and we have never seen the level of violence that we see today and the lack of remorse. All of us have some role to play in that, it seems to me, and at the very least, parents ought to be on guard about presenting things to their children which basically not only tolerate violence, but glorify violence as the end result or the goal to be achieved in a game or any endeavor.
And isn't that really who your message is directed to, the parents and the grandparents who purchase these things at Christmas time? There is no legal threat attached to your letter.
In fact, my letter said very specifically there was no threat, and I didn't believe in censorship. I was talking for responsibility by consumers, parents, and responsibility by corporate leaders who should ask themselves, is this the kind of thing that I would allow my children to see? And do I think we have too little violence in our society today? And do I think there are some things that ought to be held up as role models to children?
Attorney General Dan Lundgren, thank you for being with us from Sacramento. When we come back, the new U.S. opening to South Africa.
Scampi champagne. I like it.
Just one sip.
That's beautiful. Excuse me? Excuse me. Find out the name of this, but don't be too obvious.
Sparkling, delicious. No champagne tastes like Bellatori.
Frankly, I think it tastes better than champagne.
You wouldn't happen to know the name of this, would you?
Bellatori.
One sip of Bellatori.
Bellatori.
2 L's.
One sip says it all.
1874, the first transatlantic cable connecting Ireland and America. It was made by Siemens. That was then. This is now. Today, Siemens makes telephone switches that handle 1 million calls an hour or billions of bits of data per second on a single phone line. Siemens companies are designing telecommunication solutions to make businesses more efficient today and more competitive tomorrow. Siemens, precision thinking.
So you switched from whole milk to skim milk, huh? And you're eating granola?
Oh, don't tell me.
Yep, good old granola is loaded with fat. But today, there's Kellogg's low-fat granola. Look, all the sweet, chewy, big, hearty taste today's granola fans crave, and just half the fat. Kellogg's low-fat granola. It won't weigh you down, slow you down, or let you down on taste. And now Kellogg's low-fat granola comes without raisins, too.
Yeah!
Great taste, half the fat,
and no raisins.
On the first full day of his stay in South Africa, U.S. Commerce Secretary Ron Brown attended church in the Black Township of Soweto. Later, he said the two countries plan to sign an agreement on Tuesday that will encourage U.S. investment. Brown is the first member of the Clinton cabinet to visit South Africa. Mexico's ruling party today named Social Development Minister Luis Donaldo Colosio as its candidate in next year's presidential elections. The party has governed Mexico for more than 60 years, almost assuring that Colosio will succeed President Salinas de Gortari. Colosio holds graduate degrees from the University of Pennsylvania. And on the eve of still more Geneva peace talks, Serbian artillery shells took a terrible toll in Sarajevo. One shell landed outside a building of the city university, killing 5 people, wounding 8 others. It happened just minutes after Bosnia's Muslim president left for Geneva. Iraqi and UN officials start discussions this week on how to monitor Iraqi arms programs. Iraq agreed last Friday to the United Nations demand for long-term monitoring. It wants the Security Council to lift the ban on oil exports imposed after the Gulf War. Some Iraqi prisoners of war have been resettled in this country in a program that is rife with controversy and misconceptions. Jim Stewart reports.
Meet Ali Abdul Hassan, former artillery officer in the Iraqi army, a refugee now in a strange land, and a long, long way from home. Desert Storm was 2 weeks old when Hassan threw up his hands with thousands of other Iraqis and surrendered. At prison camp, he met a U.S. sergeant who would eventually sponsor first him and later 2 brothers, also former POWs, as refugees to the United States. Today, they all live together in New Hampshire, and along with a handful of other Iraqi POWs admitted here, have become the center of a national uproar. It started with the VFW condemning their arrival. Then it was fought out on the talk shows.
We do everything but set them up with a bar tab at the local pub.
And now Congress is hot about it.
That our government is spending tens of millions of dollars to resettle former enemy prisoners of war into the United States.
The charges are political dynamite. Thousands of Iraqi POWs coming here, costing taxpayers millions of dollars. But CBS News has examined the State Department's refugee figures and found a far different picture. Less than 100 actual POWs arrived in the U.S. last year, including the 3 who came here to New Hampshire, and the cost, only a fraction of what the congressman charges.
Well, we've spent $392 apiece on them.
Ed McNeil runs a refugee resettlement program.
So they're seeking employment at this time is the basic thing that they are doing, and they're adjusting to life here, but that isn't going to take very long.
Ali Hassan has already found a job, one no one else wanted here, and says he doesn't need charity.
All the money, every dollars American government spend for me to give me here, I pay back all this money.
Sergeant Eric Marsh, who's taken the Iraqis in, doesn't understand all the fuss back in Washington.
This whole country was built on refugees and immigrants. They have no business saying this.
The Hassan brothers, meanwhile, say for them the choice is simple. In Iraq, they would be executed for desertion. Here, they are free.
We are free here because in Iraq, never know what is the meaning of RWE.
And for that, they give thanks 5 times daily.
They do their prayers and they thank their God for freedom, that they found freedom.
Jim Stewart, CBS News, Belmont, New Hampshire.
This comfortable with all your decisions. Acura. Some things are worth the price.
Chia. Chia Herb Garden comes with everything you need to grow 6 different herbs indoors. Seeds, pots and saucers, plant food, instruction booklet, even chia growing mix. A great gift for anyone. Just plant your herb seeds, water, add plant food, then put them in a sunny spot and... Chia. Makes cooking fun. And tasty. Chia. Chia Herb Garden.
Chia Herb Garden is available at Payless, Woolworth, Walgreens, and Kmart. Makes a great gift.
There I was, 600 miles into a business trip when things started to fall apart. There was no way I was going to get back in time for payday, but that's okay. Since I signed up for Great Western Direct Deposit, my paycheck gets to the bank without me. The money goes right into my account every payday. And the way things turned out, I really needed it. Talk to Great Western Bank about direct deposit, or ask your employer.
Weather permitting, you'll have a chance to see a celestial spectacle tonight. There will be a full lunar eclipse visible over all of North America, with the full blackout beginning around 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Veteran television host Gary Moore died today at his home in Hilton Head, South Carolina. He was 78. At the height of his career in the 50s and 60s, his shows were watched by 25 million people every week. Sidekick Durwood Kirby today praised Gary Moore as a pioneer of television and a truly nice man.
The Gary Moore Show, and here's Gary.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of I've Got a Secret.
He didn't sing, didn't dance. It was his charm that won you over.
And sitting next to...
Gary,
excuse
Gary.
me. Yes, Carol?
You're a little mixed up.
What do you mean?
This isn't I've Got a Secret. This is the Tuesday night show.
Oh, boy.
Gary Moore Show.
He discovered Carol Burnett and made her a regular guest. He also helped launch the careers of Don Knotts, Jonathan Winters, and Johnny Carson.
You know, it's always kind of a kick being on the first show of a brand new season, and especially this year, since Gary's program has been selected to be shown to our armed forces in Central Park.
Born Thomas Garrison Morfitt, he was short of stature and always sporting a crew cut and bow tie. For a time, he was the highest paid and most recognized performer on television. Beginning with the Matinee Club on radio, Durwood Kirby was often at his side.
Snapshots, say it loud now. Snapshots, snapshots.
By George, I think he's got it.
Moore also hosted To Tell the Truth and I've Got a Secret.
Now, Doctor, if you will whisper your secret to me, we will show it at the same time to the folks out there.
Former panelist Kitty Carlisle Hart.
He was a prince of a man. He was nice. He was companionable. He was a good friend.
Moore retired in the 70s to recuperate from throat cancer and to sail the high seas, a lonely pursuit for a gregarious man. Television, he once wrote, was people reaching out to people, and the moments of contact were electric and thrilling.
We hope to see you soon. Thanks for dropping by. But just for now, we'll say goodbye.
So until next week, be very kind to each other, will you? And goodbye out there.
And that's goodbye from us, too. That's the news this evening. Stay tuned next for 60 Minutes and a report on how in Florida your home is still your castle, even if you declare bankruptcy. Later this evening, Joy Bill Plant for the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Deborah Norville, New York. Thanks for watching, and good night.
Experience CBS News.
Are you forgetful? Have trouble concentrating? It's a problem for millions, but there's good news. It is treatable. Eye on America investigates tomorrow on the CBS Evening News. This is CBS.